If asked where and when World War II began, most people would answer Poland, 1939. But in the Pacific, it actually started in northeastern China, aka Manchuria. The Kellogg-Briand Pact of 1928 said Japan couldn't go to war unless in self-defense. Japanese soldiers attacked their own railroad at Mukden and claimed Chinese sabotage, creating the state of Manchukuo from their war supposedly to defend themselves. The Kwangtung Army then installed as its leader the last emperor of China, Puyi. However, in reality he was just a puppet and completely controlled by the Japanese military. The road to Pearl Harbor runs through Mukden, violating both the open-door policy on trade in China and the Kellogg-Briand Pact named after his predecessor Secretary of State. The incident left the U.S. government under Hoover little recourse but to refuse to recognize the puppet state of Manchukuo. Even as Hitler violated the Versailles restrictions on his military, the Wehrmacht, Congress legislated the Neutrality Act, barring FDR from aiding or arming any belligerent nation, even if it acted in self-defense. Hitler's first major move abroad occurred 3 years later, against Austria, his homeland. Annexing Austria in March 1938, this union, or Anschluss, united its citizens into his vision of a greater Germany, a Großdeutschland. It left its neighbor Czechoslovakia ever more encircled and entreating the Allied powers to assist in its defense. Britain and France sold the Czechs out, appeasing Hitler's annexation of the Sudetenland and its ethnic German population, with the pledge to seize no more territory. However, 6 months later, Hitler decided, nah, you know what, I'll take the whole thing. When he began clamoring to unite with the Germans in East Prussia in the Polish corridor, even the Anglo-French bloc recognized the urgent need to put their military where their mouth was and defend Poland. Even as an aggressor, Hitler wanted to play the victim. Matching the Mukden incident in Manchuria, he ordered the Wehrmacht stage a false flag operation of its own at Gleiwitz. Disguised as Polish soldiers, Alfred Naujoks and his men stormed the radio station in the city so Hitler could claim self-defense. They created the illusion of Poland violating Germany's border to justify reality, Germany violating Poland, permissible under the Kellogg-Briand Pact. With Poland's surrender after 26 days, Great Britain and France ranked as the only nations with both hard currency and ships to make use of America's new cash and carry policy. They could purchase weapons now from the United States, but only if they risked their own men on their own ships to carry them home. With Poland, Germany unveiled its new strategy of blitzkrieg, lightning war, conquering countries that joined the Allied powers. Norway in 3 months, Belgium 18 days, the Netherlands only 4. France capitulated 42 days after invasion. Its selling out Czechoslovakia meant the Wehrmacht deployed more stolen Czech tanks than German Mark IIIs in France. Appeasement made the new lightning war possible. Britain stood steadfast and alone against Adolf Hitler. Roosevelt finally persuaded real action from Congress with Lend-Lease, a law that led to sending ships, airplanes, anything and everything the British needed against the Axis onslaught. Even with 60% of people opposed to a third term, he was overwhelmingly re-elected in November anyhow. Japan remained mired, meanwhile, in its war to conquer China. FDR enacted economic sanctions. 3/4 of Japan's scrap metal and 80% of its oil came from the United States, but he suspended the supply of vital war needs. Japan had enough to wage war without American oil for another 2 years tops, but it dug in and doubled down rather than relent, instead preparing to pummel Pearl Harbor.